Today, we are finally tackling one of the most famous figures in industrial history, maybe one of the most misunderstood, too, Henry Ford.
Right. And I think that's the problem, isn't it? Everyone knows the name. Everyone knows the Model T.
And the assembly line. That's the one thing everyone learns in school.
Exactly. But that narrative, it really simplifies his genius down to just one single process. The sources we've pulled for you today, they show a much more complicated picture.
Okay, so our mission here is to dig into that, to find the surprising bits, the things that aren't obvious, that really explain how he changed American life. We're looking at his early life, his technical work, and some pretty brutal business failures.
And here's the idea we want you to hold on to. Ford's success wasn't a sure thing. It was all built on him seeing and then solving two huge gaps in American industry at the time.
The first gap was purely technical, right? It was this lack of knowledge about the future of power, about electricity.
And the second one, which, it almost destroyed his first company, was the logistical gap. How do you build a reliable supply chain when the world just isn't set up for mass production? If he hadn't solved both of those, we probably wouldn't be talking about him today.
All right, let's start at the beginning then. His motivation. Ford, by all accounts, should have been a farmer. He was born in Michigan, and the world was still very, very agrarian.
And he hated it. He hated it with a passion. And that rejection of the farm, that becomes the fuel for everything. He wanted speed. He wanted efficiency.
He wanted machines to do the work.
Precisely. He saw men breaking their backs and thought, there has to be a better way. But the environment it was just perfect for him.
The geography, you mean?
Yeah, his village was only about 8 miles from Detroit. And Detroit, at that time, was just exploding. It was becoming this massive industrial hub.
And why Detroit? That's a story that goes back even further to a piece of infrastructure from, 1825?
We're talking about the Erie Canal. Just a massive waterway over 360 miles long, connecting the Hudson River to the Great Lakes. Before that canal, moving anything from the Midwest to the East Coast was slow and incredibly expensive.
So this canal just opens up the entire western frontier.
Totally. Now you can load up copper, iron ore, lumber, whatever, onto a boat in Detroit and ship it straight to New York, straight to Europe. It was a logistical revolution.
And the money just pours in.
The growth is it's stunning. Detroit's population goes up by a factor of 10 in 50 years. By the 1880s, you have almost 1,000 companies there, all fed by these resources coming through the Great Lakes. That's the world that Ford walks into.
And it meets his natural talent.
Yeah.
By 12, he's already the neighborhood kid who can fix anyone's watch. He could take them apart, put them back together, just had a feel for it.
And then he sees a working steam engine on a school trip, and that's it. The path is set.
So at 16, he goes against his father's wishes, leaves the farm for good, and heads right for Detroit.
Where there are jobs waiting for any kid with a knack for mechanics. And that's a huge lesson, right? The environment, the infrastructure, it can create the perfect incubator for a certain kind of genius.
Okay, so this is where he hits that first big gap you mentioned, the technical one. He's in Detroit. He's working on steam engines, and then he reads about something totally new in a British magazine.
The gas engine, invented by a German engineer, Nicholas Otto. And in America, it was practically unheard of.
But when Ford gets his hands on one around 1889, he sees its potential immediately.
Yes, and that's the key. He was an expert in steam. He knew its limitations inside and out.
Wait, so why jump ship so fast? Steam was the established technology. He knew it.
Because the advantages were just so clear. Think about a steam engine. It's heavy. You need a massive boiler. You need water. It takes half an hour just to build up enough pressure to start.
Right.
The gas engine, it's way lighter, no boiler. It uses internal combustion, so it's more efficient. And the big one, it starts almost instantly. It was everything. Steam wasn't. Fast, light, and efficient.
But there was a catch. This huge knowledge gap. The gas engine needed an electric spark.
And Ford knew steam, he knew metal, he knew nothing about electricity.
So what does he do? He gets a job at the local branch of the Edison Illuminating Company.
Which is just fantastic irony. Edison's company is powering homes in Detroit, using giant steam engines to run their generators. Ford was the perfect person to hire.
And the best part is, once the steam engines were running well, he had downtime, he had freedom to tinker. He was basically getting paid to learn the one skill he was missing.
So by 1893, he's the chief engineer there, and he's built his first working gas engine on the side.
And that leads us to the quadricycle in 1896.
It took him 3 years to build that thing. And you have to remember, there were no car parts stores, no blueprints. He was inventing everything as he went.
And that first version was, let's say, charmingly basic. It's just a simple frame with an ethanol engine,
Yeah.
4 bicycle wheels.
And the design flaws are pretty funny now. It had 2 gears.
And neither of them was reverse.
Can you imagine? You drive up to a wall and you have to get out and physically push your car backward. And at first, it didn't even have a cooling system, so it was constantly overheating.
So he drove it for 1,000 miles, just fixing and tweaking before he finally sold that first one for $200. He was ready, or so he thought.
Right. And this brings us to the failure, the big one, the one that really forced him to change his entire vision.
This is the Detroit Automobile Company in 1899.
Exactly. He's confident. He gets investors, raises $150,000. The plan is to build delivery wagons for all those industrialists he knows in Detroit.
And this is where he runs smack into that second gap, the supply chain.
It was a logistical nightmare. His factory was basically just an assembly point. He was relying on dozens of other small companies to make all the parts, the axles, the wheels, the engine components.
So if one little shop was late with their delivery,
the whole factory just stopped, dead in its tracks. You could have 30 workers just standing around waiting for one specific part to arrive. He had zero control over the flow of materials.
so let me make sure I'm getting this. He has the money. He has the demand from customers. But because he's waiting on a shipment of, say, springs, the whole operation grinds to a halt.
Exactly right. Production was painfully slow and incredibly expensive. The first delivery wagon took 6 months. In 2 years, they only managed to build about 20 vehicles in total.
The investors must have been furious.
They lost all faith. By the end of 1902, they vote him out. He only owned 15% of the company, so he was gone.
And here's that little historical twist. The man who took over the assets of that failed company, he renamed it, and it became Cadillac.
A huge what-if moment. Ford is left with just $1,000 to his name, but he has this brand new, crystal clear vision. He realized the problem wasn't the car itself. It was the whole model of production.
He was done building expensive custom cars for businesses or for wealthy racers.
His new goal was radical. He wanted to turn the car into a commodity, something for the average person, for the average family. And that vision was so powerful, he spent the next 5 years iterating. 20 different designs, literally Model A through the alphabet, trying to find that perfect car.
So he has to solve the logistics problem first. Step 1 was getting reliable partners.
And he immediately goes to the Dodge brothers. Yes, those Dodge brothers. He secures their machine shop to be a consistent, high-volume supplier for things like chassis and engines.
And step 2 is the big one, the process innovation. This is where he gets that famous aha moment. He's looking for a better way to organize the work, and he finds it in a Chicago slaughterhouse.
What's so interesting is that he's not watching assembly, he's watching disassembly. He sees carcasses hanging on hooks moving down a line, and each worker just stands in one spot doing one specific repetitive task over and over as the carcass moves past them.
And a light bulb goes off. He realizes he can just reverse that process.
That's the genius of it. Instead of workers moving all around a stationary car, the car moves past stationary workers. It cuts out so much wasted time and motion. You don't need highly skilled craftsmen for every single step anymore.
So by 1904, he builds a new factory just to try this out. By 1905, just with a partial assembly line, he's got 300 people building 25 cars a day.
And this leads to the Model N in 1906. It's affordable, and it becomes the best-selling car in America. The sources show that just this partial implementation of the assembly line boosted their production by a factor of 5. It was a massive success.
And to get even more control, he starts the Ford Manufacturing Company in 1905 to make his own engines and transmissions. He's bringing the supply chain in-house.
But now we get to the secret weapon. This is the story you really need to hear, because this is what separates the successful Model N from the world-changing Model T. And it all comes from a mine in Peru.
We're talking about vanadium steel.
The absolute cutting edge of material science at the time. It was incredibly difficult to make. Most American furnaces couldn't even get hot enough. But the result was unbelievable.
How much better was it?
More than twice as strong as regular steel, but it was also lighter. Now, think about the roads back then. They were terrible, bumpy, unpaved messes. Durability was everything.
And this is where luck, or maybe good networking, comes in. He befriends the Flannery brothers.
Get this. The Flannery brothers owned the single mine in Peru that produced 92% of the entire world's supply of vanadium.
Wow.
They knew they were sitting on a gold mine, but they needed a big industrial application for it. Ford was their answer. They partnered with him, helped him change his entire manufacturing process, and even built him a dedicated heat treatment plant in 1907 just for vanadium steel. His competitors simply couldn't get it.
And that's the connection. The Model T comes out in 1908, and it's the first car designed from the ground up with this super strong, lightweight steel.
And this is a really critical point. The Model T wasn't actually the cheapest car he'd ever made. The Model N was cheaper. But its quality was on another level because of that vanadium.
So he wasn't selling cheapness. He was selling reliability.
Bulletproof reliability. That was the only marketing he needed. This was a car that could handle the terrible American roads. It wouldn't break down.
And the demand was insane. Immediately, within weeks of the launch, they had 25,000 orders. They could only manage to build about 17,000 cars in all of 1909. They were completely overwhelmed.
And that huge demand is what forces him to perfect the system. He builds a second, much bigger factory, and by 1913, he finally implements the full, continuously moving assembly line.
The numbers are just staggering. In 1910, they built 20,000 Model Ts.
Yeah.
6 years later, it's over 500,000 a year.
And all the while, he's cutting the price. The efficiencies were so great that in those 6 years, he cut the price of the Model T by more than half. It became a car that almost anyone could aspire to own.
So by 1918, half of all the cars in America were Model Ts. He had done it. He turned this luxury novelty into a high-quality, reliable, mass-market commodity.
So when you put it all together, it wasn't just one thing. It was this perfect storm. It was mastering the technical gap with electricity at Edison.
It was the material science revolution with that exclusive Peruvian vanadium.
And it was that ironclad logistical control from reversing the slaughterhouse line and building his own parts factories. That combination is what let him deliver quality, volume, and a low price all at the same time. He didn't just build a better car, he built a better system.
So we've seen how one man's hatred of farm labor, mixed with the industrial boom in Detroit and a key partnership in Peru, really laid the foundation for all of modern American commerce.
And it leaves you with this really fascinating question to think about. If Ford's revolutionary assembly line came from looking at a disassembly process in a totally different industry, meatpacking, what vital innovations are hiding in plain sight for you right now, in fields that you're probably ignoring?
Something to think about until our next deep dive. We'll see you then.